One of the advantages of doing your articleship from a big four firm is definitely the brand value. But are the smaller firms not worth it? Let's discuss that in today's video. Hi my friends, I'm Mehar and I did my CA articleship from KPMG India. I ended up working there for 5 years. But many of you asked me whether a big four is worth it or not. So today I will be comparing the pros and cons of doing your articleship at a big four versus a small firm. And to do this, I have with me my colleague Harshit, who did his articleship from a relatively smaller firm in Lucknow. Harshit, over to you.
Thank you, Mehar. I'm Harshit. I'm a recently qualified chartered accountant. I qualified earlier this year in 2023 itself. Yes, I completed my articleship at a relatively smaller firm here in Lucknow. After qualifying, I have been serving as a business growth lead here at MSB Vision. When I talk about the advantages of a smaller firm, I think there are multiple advantages where we can think of. The first advantage of working at a smaller firm is diverse experience. I understand that a big four does offer a brand name, but you can work for a brand name even after qualifying. A diverse set of experience that you get at a smaller firm by working into various domains like auditing, taxation, advisory across various teams is something that opens up your horizons and gives you a holistic experience during your CA articleship and gives you a professional exposure. The second big advantage of working at a smaller firm is the exposure to on-ground practical reality. When you work with smaller clients, when you work in smaller teams, when you work with clients from the medium, smaller micro industries, it helps you build your negotiation skills. Maybe the client that you're working for will not be as intellectually aware as you are. Maybe the client is from a rural background. Maybe the client is not as aware of the compliance as you are. Therefore, it helps you build negotiation. It helps you deal with clients from various diasporas. It makes you aware of the on-ground reality and also helps you negotiate better. The third big advantage of working at a smaller firm in your articleship is the flexibility. At a smaller firm, you get more flexibility because the work hours are not as stringent as a bigger firm. You can structure your time well and also plan your studies well in advance because you understand that studying from the finals is actually a Herculean task. At a smaller firm, you get more time to devote to your studies, and if you plan well in advance, your study leaves can be enough to help you crack the exams in the first attempt. Also, the fourth advantage, and which is I think the biggest one, is the leadership opportunities that you get at a small firm. In a small firm, there are lesser number of articles, there are lesser number of teams. The responsibility that you get in your second or third year of articleship when you become the senior helps you develop your leadership behavior. You are able to handle teams, you're able to directly report to the client and also be the front face of your firm, and you're able to represent your firm at the client's place.
Thanks, Harshit. Those were some great points about the advantages of small firms. So let's talk about some of the advantages of the big four that Harshit probably missed out on. The first and foremost that I always say is the brand value. When you're working at such big companies, you have this sense of accomplishment, confidence, pride. You get to work at the best of the best. These are the best companies in the world. They're recognized not just in India, but across the world. And even after you leave these firms, you have that brand value on your CV for the rest of your life. You become a big four alumni forever. So I still very proudly say that I have 6 years of experience at KPMG as well as EY. And that has definitely opened a lot of doors for me. The second advantage is definitely that you will be able to develop strong communication skills. And that is because you will be working with such top-class people. People who know how to write reports, how to set deadlines, how to deal with these top clients. You will be communicating with CXOs of big companies verbally as well as on email. You will be writing all these reports that your seniors will tell you to write. You will observe how your seniors conduct business with the clients. It will definitely be like a finishing school for you. The third advantage is that you will be able to build a strong network. These big four companies have a large pool of employees coming to work there and be a part of the hustle bustle of these big companies. So you'll not just be able to build a network of people who are in the same grade as you, but also your seniors, senior executives, directors, partners. And because these big four firms work with the best of the best companies in the country, if not the world, the kind of network you will be able to build in that scenario will also be immense. So for example, maybe you have a client that's in the telecom industry, the best telecom company in India or in Asia. You will start working closely with the client, and later once you qualify as a CA, you will be able to probably, because of those networks, find other job opportunities in the telecom sector, if not just at that company. The fourth advantage of the big four is that they have a very high standard of work. So because everybody is the best, they have a reputation to protect. You're representing the client, you're representing the brand, you're representing these big companies. When you go for client meetings, they expect high standards of work from you. Top quality, best of the best. And that is what it will teach you as well. High quality of work, being detail oriented, having a strong work ethic. These are the things that you'll be able to pick up if you're a part of the big companies. The last and the least is the stipends. The stipends at the big four are also not too much, unfortunately, but they're way more than smaller firms. But you have to remember, being a part of the big four, you will also be living in one of the big cities in India. That means your cost of living will also be higher. You'll be paying for rent, for transport, for just basic necessities. So will the stipend cover your costs? That's what you have to remember. I remember my stipend was so low that it wasn't even covering covering the metro charges as well as petrol expenses for me, even though I lived in the same city. My friends, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share and like this video and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss out on any of my upcoming videos. Also, don't forget to follow me on my Instagram page, MSB Vision.
Thank you, Mehar. Yeah, now talking about the disadvantages of working at a smaller firm. Out of the many disadvantages, the few that I feel are less brand value and recognition. Working at a smaller firm, the brand is not that high. You're working at a mid-sized firm, maybe even a relatively smaller one. Not much people know about that firm. And after qualifying, when you're interviewing for a bigger company for your job, people might not be aware of the firm that you did your articleship at. Therefore, I think that the recognition is slightly lesser than working with a Big 4 or a Big 6 accounting firm for your articleship. The second disadvantage that I feel is non-value adding work. Because you are in a smaller firm with lesser number of people, lesser number of resources, sometimes you might also end up doing non-value adding work. For example, after completing a client's assignment, you might also be expected to do the invoicing. You might also be expected to do client follow-ups. You might also be expected to visit the client's place for maybe delivering the documents or collecting them. There are a number of non-value adding work that you might be expected to do in a smaller firm, which is different from what you're doing at a bigger firm. The third disadvantage is no set processes. Working in a smaller firm, you might get a lot of exposure, but something that you would struggle with is no set processes. There are plenty of clients. There are good clients as well, but sometimes your leaders might not be able to communicate to you the set processes for doing a task. When you start your articleship, you might be expected to know everything by your own, which sometimes becomes a hindrance in performing the task at hand. The other big disadvantage, which I think a lot of you would agree, is also less stipend. I remember in my articleship days, I used to get 2,000, 2,500 and 3,000 stipend. Though in a smaller firm, people might not agree that it's too less, but honestly, when you look at the ground reality, it's not even enough to commensurate your commute expenses sometimes. Though the stipend is not an end objective of your articleship, but it is a tool to help you understand how your work is being rewarded. Therefore, less stipend is also a disadvantage that you might face at a smaller firm. And the last disadvantage, which I feel is the most serious one, is less exposure to professionalism and also less exposure and opportunity to build communication. At a smaller firm, you're dealing with a lot of clients. The clients come from diverse backgrounds. Not everybody can be expected to be of high professional standard. You will have to use various styles of communication while trying to communicate with them or trying to explain them your point of views. Therefore, I think the exposure to build your skills is a little lesser in a smaller firm.
So let's talk about the disadvantages of being a part of the Big 4. First and foremost is definitely long work hours and high workload. Because these firms want to be the best, they expect you to be the best, you'll have to hustle more. And initially, all that takes time to learn how to write a good report, how to write a good email, how to become proficient on Excel. These are the things that you pick up on the job. But because all this has to be so perfect, you'll have to put more hours to learn and perfect them. And that's the second disadvantage, that because of the high workload, because of the pressure, there is a high stress and in most of the cases, a toxic work culture in some of these Big 4. These companies, they know you're easily replaceable. If you leave today, tomorrow 5 others will come. So many people dream and aspire to be a part of the Big 4 that you are not really an asset for them. The culture in some situations is so toxic that articles working there become underconfident, they have low self-esteem, and some of them even go into depression. In fact, I have discussed why I quit the Big 4 in a separate video that you can check out about. The third disadvantage is the monotony, how boring it becomes to do the same thing again and again. They expect the same thing from you without much creativity or much innovation, or even not enough leadership opportunities. Your exposure is definitely limited. For example, if I was in the audit department, I was doing auditing of clients, I would probably be doing fixed assets at all the upcoming companies, unless I volunteer to do something different. So if you are a part of the Big 4, you have to continuously find ways to make things more interesting for you, to make sure you're learning and growing on a daily basis from project to project, from client to client. It's definitely not something that falls on your plate. The fourth point is that you're a small fish in a big ocean. That means you play a very small role in this big factory that they have created of employees. How many leadership opportunities will you be able to get? Within the firm, when you join the firm, you will be constantly competing with other articles who may be doing a little bit better than you. How do you stand out? How do you prove to your manager that you're better than the rest? And that's what also causes a lot of stress, high workload, and toxicity. So you have to remember, even if you're a part of these Big 4 firms, the rat race does not stop there. The next disadvantage is definitely that there is very less flexibility of how many hours you can study, because the workload will be so high, because the expectations from you will be so high. You'll have to go for classes, you'll have to manage client work, as well as impress your boss at the end of the day. Even taking leaves at the Big Four can become a big hassle, unless your manager or principal are really nice. So if you think you're going to go to the Big Four and you'll have enough time to study, that will not be the case, because work becomes a priority for them. They definitely care more about how much you're working versus how much you're studying. So you have to see what's a priority for you. Thanks so much, Harshit, for sharing your perspective. We really hope this was useful for you. At the end of the day, my friends, there is no right or wrong here. You can build a strong career at the Big Four or outside the Big Four. You have to think about what is your career goal. Do you want a brand on your CV? Do you want that exposure? Do you want that life of hustling and being a part of this big corporation? Or you want more flexibility? You want more autonomy? You want more leadership opportunities? You want to just join your neighborhood firm because your priority is to study right now and crack the CA exams? At the end of the day, just be very certain about your decision. And please, both Harshit and I will say this, is that do not do a dummy articleship. That would be our biggest recommendation to you all. I hope this video was useful for you. If you want to see more such content, please comment below, and I'll be back soon with another one. But until then, keep hustling hard towards your goals. I hope to see you soon. Bye.